Привет, друзья, and welcome to Start Russian. And in today's video, we're going to talk about grammatical genders in Russian. If you're a beginner in Russian and you're just starting to learn Russian grammar, this is definitely the first topic you should look at. Because everything in Russian grammar is based on gender, whether you agree nouns with adjectives or apply different case endings and so on. And when it comes to genders of nouns in Russian, I have good news and bad news for you. Let's start with the bad news. So the bad news is that Russian nouns have 3 genders, and they're masculine, feminine, and neuter. And with the exception of a very limited number of nouns that can logically be male or female, for example, words like, man, woman, mother, father, sister, brother, and so on, the overwhelming majority of nouns in Russian, like 99.9%, have assigned genders without any logic or rhyme or reason. For example, the word house in Russian is masculine, the word apartment is feminine, and the word dorm is neuter. And now to the good news. The good news is that you can almost always tell the gender of a noun in Russian simply by looking at its ending. You don't even have to know what it means. Just look at the ending, and in most cases you can tell what the gender of that noun is. And in this sense, Russian is definitely easier than some other languages where you simply have to memorize the gender for each noun. Like in German, for example, where nouns also have 3 genders, and you must learn every noun with an article. Again, you don't have to do anything like that in Russian, and in this video, I'll teach you how to tell the genders of nouns simply by looking at their endings. So, if a Russian noun ends in a consonant, or what I also call zero ending, it's masculine. Dom, house, телефон, phone, stol, table, and so on. If a noun ends in an a or ya, then it's feminine. Машина, car, вода, water, семья, family, and so on. And finally, if a noun ends in an o or ye, then it's neuter. Молоко, milk, яблоко, apple, солнце, sun, море, sea, and so on. And please be careful with nouns like яблоко. So in the word яблоко, the last letter sounds like an a because it's unstressed. This is a very common thing in Russian, and oftentimes you'll notice that unstressed O's sound totally like as. But when it comes to telling the gender of a noun, you must always go by spelling. So since the word яблоко is spelled яблоко, the last letter being o, it is neuter. And of course, in the ideal world, this would be the end of our video. But of course, there are a couple of other less regular scenarios that we'll look at. So a fairly common scenario is when a noun ends in a soft sign. Remember guys, if a Russian noun ends in a soft sign, then it can either be feminine or masculine, but it can never be neuter. And unfortunately, if you're not a native speaker, there is no certain way to tell whether a noun ending in a soft sign is feminine or masculine. But I do have a couple of tips for you guys. First of all, remember that statistically about 75% of nouns ending in a soft sign are feminine, and only 25% of those nouns are masculine. So if you see a noun ending in a soft sign in Russian, most likely it's going to be feminine. But the only way to tell for sure is to look it up or ask a native speaker. But here's another useful tip. If the noun ends in one of those hissing consonants plus a soft sign, for example, sh soft sign, sh soft sign, or ch soft sign, then it's 100% feminine. For example, дочь, daughter, ночь, night, мышь, mouse, they're definitely feminine. You don't even have to check. But if it's not one of those hissing consonants plus a soft sign, then your best bet is to look it up. For example, the word день, day in Russian, is masculine, and the word осень, fall or autumn, is feminine, even though both literally end in the same 2 letters and soft sign. Another exception you should remember is nouns ending in mya are neuter. You would think they're feminine, right, because they end in ya, but again, if it's mya, then remember they're neuter, not feminine. The 2 most common examples that I recommend you memorize are время, time, and имя, name. They're both neuter. And there's another exception that you should keep in mind, but this one actually makes sense in Russian for once. So there is a bunch of nouns in Russian that end in a or ya, but they express something male or masculine. For example, papa, dad, dядя, uncle, дедушка, grandfather, мужчина, man, and a few others. So those nouns are of course masculine, even though they technically end in a or ya, which again is a typical feminine ending. This is one of those cases in Russian where meaning prevails over form. And then lastly, you may occasionally encounter a noun that ends in something atypical. For example, words like menu, a menu, or taxi, a taxi. So the rule here is very simple. Just assume neuter. So both menu and taxi are neuter in Russian. Alright guys, this is all I have for you in this video. Remember, being able to identify the gender of a Russian noun is your first step to mastering Russian grammar. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, be sure to give it a like. And of course, subscribe to my channel, Start Russian. And I look forward to seeing you in my next videos. And until then, пока-пока.